It's my huge pleasure to have Joëlle Hervic here with me today. Joëlle and I have been colleagues for many years, and we have collaborated at the early stages of a project that I'm sure Joëlle is going to talk a little bit more about now, and it's called The Journey Home. And Joëlle is the CEO of the Human Dimensions TV, and I really want to just say thank you so much, Joëlle, for talking. The issues for the environment are mirrored in terms of the issues inside the internal environment of the human who's facing this coronavirus. And you know, your message around the larger environment is so critical for us at this time. So I wonder, Joëlle, if you could just talk a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Oh, well, first of all, thank you, Neil. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you today. So thank you for inviting me. So my journey, well, started when I was, I remember it actually. I was maybe 8 or 9, and we were asked to do a school project, and I, of my own choice, chose world hunger. I researched it as a 9-year-old and read up on it, and couldn't understand how the country I lived in had so much in the way of abundance and more than enough, and so many millions of people were starving. So I just didn't understand that, and that led me to doing the law, to studying law, only because I felt it would be a way to give those issues, the environmental issues and justice issues, which I believe are inextricably linked, a voice. You can't separate the two. Justice and environmental degradation are linked. And it's the vulnerable, the disempowered, who always suffer the most. And anyway, so yes, so I became a lawyer. I practiced law in Australia and America, and was a campaigner for the environment. Ended up in a non-profit, and eventually set up Human Dimensions TV after I met Mark in Washington, D.C., Mark O'Brien. And he has a creative passion, and I have, I have my skills and my own passion, and we merged it as Human Dimensions TV. And we have various projects, but the biggest one is Journey Home, which you know about, and which I would like to speak about a bit later, if that's all right.
No, talk as soon as you're ready. Just talk about it, because it's wonderful. Okay.
Well, you know all about Journey Home because you actually planted the seed, Neil. And Mark and I are very appreciative of that. So Journey Home is really a warning from the future to us in the present day, and there are no two ways about it, that the path that we have been on, that we are on, will lead to destruction, and all life on Earth as we know it will cease to exist. It just cannot, and we are going closer and closer to the cliff from which there will be no return. So the opportunity to do something is narrowing, and there is a link with that environmental degradation, what we're doing to the planet and what we have been doing to the planet ever since the Industrial Revolution. There is a link between global health, planetary health, and all health, our health. And there is, as a result of an imbalance in the earth, an imbalance in people. I mean, there again, we're mirroring our really our sickness in this so-called civilization that we've set up. Our sickness, and it is a sickness, which is, you know, reflected in consumerism and this compulsion just to have more and more and to get busier and busier. So our lack of health is reflected in the imbalance in the larger ecosystem and that health. So they're mirroring each other. And what can we do about it? We can do everything about it. It's in our hands. So our health, our inner health, is reflected in outer health, and vice versa.
So we're sitting in a situation, just to be clear here for people, you know, the environmental science is showing clearly that we're getting to a point where they're, you know, making choices it's becoming far more urgent, and beyond which making choices then it's too late. So like, this is a critical path. Now, one of the things about that is that that's a fear thing. So that's immediately huge fear, which means that people are going to choose to either switch off, which most people will do, and some other people will become more agitated, so they become more fearful, so therefore they're switching off as well. So my question on all of that is, how do you communicate the fact that there is a cliff that we're walking up to? And so that what we're talking about with the cliff is that it's danger and risk. There's a huge difference between danger and risk, of being able to perceive danger and risk, and actually, you know, falling into the disease of fear, as they call it. You know, it's a shamanic term, this idea of a disease of fear. So what we want to help, you know, viewers actually get their heads around is that they can take action now. They can see the risk, they can see the danger, but they don't need to fall into the disease of fear. They don't have to fall into the fact that there is a cliff there. And what would happen if we fell off the cliff? What would happen if we just marched straight over the cliff? No, the message really here is do things now. And I know that this is your message, but it's frustrating for you as well. Like, I can feel the frustration in you, is that, you know, cannot people, like I've seen this lesson from the time I was 8, and how is it possible that other people are not actually recognizing that, you know, there's a cliff and we're walking at it?
So how do we communicate that?
Yeah.
Well, I think that the starting point is, this is, you know, we're, you know, this global situation we're in actually presents an opportunity for that communication, and it starts with ourselves. So this is an opportunity where we're not, you know, distracting ourselves, and where we have an opportunity to, I think fear, as you say, is a very dangerous emotion, and I mean, it's been the cause of wars, and it's irrational, and it does the individual no good, and certainly the larger society no good. So the starting point is to, you know, nurse ourselves back to health. I mean, irrespective of this virus, is just, yeah, it's just this disease that I think I've mentioned before, of just consumption, and just, you know, we can't get enough of, I don't know what we can't get enough of, but it's never enough. And it's just, we're just spinning around in circles, getting busier and busier, and you know, anesthetizing ourselves with drugs or alcohol, you know, which deadens us even more. So there's a really simple solution, which is just to stop and be still and stay with yourself and really face whatever feelings you're facing. And, you know, I'm a big believer in meditation, you know, so don't be controlled by those thoughts. Just be still. Just allow yourself to be still. and get into nature. That is, you know, nature is the biggest healer. You know, just before we started talking, I was in my garden and, you know, just feeling the rain and feeling the earth, and it's just, and seeing just the life, you know, the plants and the animals, and, you know, the, you know, the microorganisms, everything that makes this, you know, this, everything healthy. Yeah.
So we've got a disease of consumption. So I'm identifying a disease of fear, and you're adding to that this disease of consumption. And healing ourselves of the disease of consumption is a huge message that you're offering here. Oh, that's wonderful. So tell me, Joëlle, you know, just talk a little bit about what you're observing in your environment. So, like, this is what we're asking for here is a helicopter view. So, like, what are you seeing out in the streets? What's happening?
Panic. Panic, and, you know, it's very hard not to get swept up in that panic, which, and, you know, I was one of the people to get swept up in the panic, and so it's, and which I knew was happening. So there was no policy at work, so that's still in disarray. So I just removed myself and just said, look, I'm going to work at home from now on. And so they can't say no. If you are in the situation where you're still having to commute to work, just say, you know, I'm not comfortable doing this. And because if you're not feeling good, if you're feeling anxious, then you can't contribute anything, let alone, you know, externally, or, you know, in your work environment, or in your family, or with yourself. So, yeah, again, fear is just our own worst enemy. So that was my task, was to work through that. So,
sorry.
No, and I have, but again, I've done that through just choosing just to, you know, meditate and be in nature and just be kind to myself. And that's really, that I can't stress that message.
Yeah.
So
what your you know, so like that's what you're seeing. You're just seeing this fear and panic and that sort of thing, and you're, you know, I'm very grateful to you to actually, you know, to be admitting that you're actually responding, you know, in the way that you have. It's an extremely human, you know, response, and, you know, I'm really grateful for you to actually being open about that. So what actually, you know, would be your interpretation of the sociological stuff? So, like, yeah, just how would you actually sort of read into it? What would you understand coming out of the way that the sociology of your area, like, you know, for people don't know this obviously, but Joëlle and I live at the thick end of 4 hours flight away from each other. We're both in Australia, but it's a very, very big country. So what are you actually finding, you know, or how you would actually interpret the setting, the sociological setting? What's happening in that area?
Well, I think if I'm understanding your question correctly, I think that it's a manifestation of people feeling like everything is out of their control, like everything is just, everything that they thought was their lives has now been turned on its head. And so again, it's fear, but so this loss of a perception of loss of control. But the thing is that, you know, and then you have the rush on supermarkets and the craziness that we're all witnessing all around the world, and emptying of shelves, and, you know, we're not going to die of starvation. It's not going to happen. So we can put that aside. And in Australia, we're blessed with, you know, an abundance of food that we grow, and we grow more than we need. We grow 3 times the amount that we need for this population. We end up exporting most of it. So we're not going to die of starvation. So we can cross that off our list of things to worry about. And again, the thing is that, you know, we are empowered. We create our own reality. And so again, you know, our inner health reflects what's going on outside of us. So, you know, once we put aside the panic and, you know, we're left with an understanding that the choices we're making and our thoughts affect everything. So negative thoughts and choices will result in, you know, the same being manifested. So we are all creating our own reality together and individually. So again, you know, just step aside, you know, take some quiet time and just be still with yourself and know that you're not disempowered. In fact, that's the message of Journey Home, is that we all have the potential to be warriors. And that's the message.
Yeah, that's lovely. So it's the way of the warrior, and it's this, as you say, it's the perception of a lack of control, and of course, sitting underneath that is the perception that I need to have control in the first place. So, you know, the message of the times is that you know, we are powerful. So, you know, we are powerful in the way that we can actually be self-responsible, and so our power is that we are completely self-responsible. And, you know, we are in control in that sense to the effect that it's necessary. However, you know, my own message is that coming out of that, like the things that fuel the need for control are the things that are actually creating all of this dissension in the first place. And certainly, you know, the need to control the earth and the planet and all of these things. You know, they're fundamental drivers. So the fact that we're actually feeling as though we're out of control, perhaps this is a gift. It's a gift to actually look at it and say, well, really, should I be controlling here? You know. So what's your take on that?
Well, I guess there's a difference between control and empowered. So, and yeah, it's been a perception that has resulted in you know, the destruction of huge swathes of the earth, you know, including the Amazon, and fracking in the United States, and, you know, just this taking, again, you know, consuming, I mean, the plain fact is that the systems we've set up are failing us. They're failing us on a larger scale and on the individual, the micro scale as well. You know, when you look at, again, the disparity between the people who have the wealth, the majority of the wealth, and those that don't, just doesn't make any sense. And so something is very wrong with the systems we've set up. And this actually is an opportunity for us to reset and to say, no, we don't want this anymore. And, you know, and it's exactly the, you know, the message that, you know, Bernie Sanders is saying. And it's threatening to those that are the establishment. That's why he is being shut down. And, you know, it's not going to be an easy path, but it's a path I believe we have to take in order to ensure our survival.
So it's fundamental sociological change and power structure change and all of that type of thing that you're talking about. So for, you know, ordinarily at this point in the interview, I'd be asking you about ways to actually stay healthy yourself, but I think you probably already talked about that. But what I'd like to ask you, the question is, just jumping outside of the individual's body into their environment, their near environment, can you talk about sort of 3 things that people could be doing to helping their nearby environment, so like within their city or town or their village or community. So what things can people be doing for their environment right now?
I would include in the environment others. So just making sure that your neighbors are okay. And especially, you know, if you've got vulnerable or elderly neighbors, making sure they're okay. What was it? Oh, yeah. And if you don't have a garden, think about banding together and setting up a community garden. I think it was in England. I heard this wonderful story. It was just a country town with, and it was quite a bleak landscape. And every patch of, you know, you know, nature strips with, you know, just grass or, you know, just lawn were turned into, you know, food for animals and food for humans. And it's open to everyone. So you just go down the street and you can just pick whatever you want that's growing. And there's, it's just, and because there's so much of it, people are just taking what they need and leaving what they don't need. So that's another thing. Yeah. Is just think about what it is that you really need, and just going on a walk or getting on a push bike, taking yourself off into nature. Really, there's a lot to be said for hugging a tree. I mean, trees, you'll get a lot of positive energy by finding a tree you like and talking to it and hugging it. And you might get some wisdom that way as well.
Yeah, well, I can attest to that. No question about it. You can communicate with trees and animals and plants and so on. Beyond a doubt. All right, so yeah, really, really good. So I want to give you an opportunity to talk more about you know, Human Dimensions TV and so on. But just before you do that, is there a specific appeal to the world? You know, like, do you, like, from your heart, what is it that you would, you know, shout out to the world?
Oh gosh, wake up.
Wake up. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mentioned to you earlier, I'll say it again, that you know, I've been in the way that you're talking about talking to trees and animals and those sorts of things. I've been talking to the virus, to this COVID-19 virus. And undoubtedly, the message is to wake up. And the way that that's delivered is that you can either stay in your existing paradigm, the duality of the victim and the bully, or you can jump out, you can wake up. And that's absolutely the lesson. So your message to the world is identical to the message of the virus. It's identical. Wake up, wake up. So, you know, if you have other things that you'd like to share, you know, and amongst talking about Human Dimensions TV and Journey Home and so on, please do. But you know, I'd love people to be able to hear what you guys are doing with these projects.
Sure. Well, Human Dimensions TV is a video production company, and we give a voice to those who don't have a voice. So whatever it might be, we've worked on health issues, we've worked on with indigenous communities, you know, that suffer in all kinds of ways, veteran issues. Again, access issues. So giving people a voice, that's what Human Dimensions TV is all about. You know, as well as more fun stuff as well, like biographies and, you know. And we've also met some amazing people filming demonstrations. So, you know, against the the pipeline in America, there have been all kinds of demonstrations in Washington, D.C. and elsewhere, and there has been an amazing coming together of groups that have previously been at odds with each other. So farmers getting together with environmentalists, and environmentalists coming together with Native Americans, and there's been this amazing community coalescing, you know, young and old. Yep. So that's been really inspirational, and we do get a lot of inspiration from, you know, people we meet, and so and we like to yeah, we'd like that to continue and to grow stronger as well, because and Mark, my business partner, is a very talented, award-winning writer, producer, and director, and he really gets to the heart of an issue, of the matter, and tunes in to people, and that comes through in his work, and that has also come through in the screenplay he wrote, with having been inspired by your insights, Neil. Again, you know, a warning from the future, but it's absolutely the path ahead is absolutely, you know, in our hands. We have the power to choose a future which is more amazing than we could possibly imagine. So it's the limits of our own imagination. I mean, when you look around at what is not only possible, but is already in existence, you know, in the Netherlands, buildings built of wood, which sounds ridiculous, but the wood is treated in a way that makes it stronger than steel, and because it's, you know, a natural substance, you know, it's it's just part of the ecosystem. It ends up being part of the ecosystem, and instead of being, you know, an us and them thing, you know, and also we've regarded nature in some ways as being an enemy. So that's another, that could be in a whole other talk, Neil, but yeah, so that's part of where we are, you know, something to be tamed, something that is, you know, a threat. So no, we are part of nature. And Journey Home is very much getting back in tune with that indigenous wisdom, and getting back to stories which we've lost. You know, we're so immersed in our phones, and just, you know, we've lost the art of storytelling, and certainly listening. And that's something that we have an opportunity to now to get back to. And so Journey Home connects back to those old stories which teach us how to live, and understanding that, you know, we've got an agreement to respect all living creatures, and to only take what we need, not to satisfy our endless greed. And there is no end to our greed. So yeah, so it's it's a story. Journey Home is a story to inspire the warrior in each of us and to empower us. So it's a very important story, especially for where we are today. So we're looking for support for Journey Home to get it into a movie. Right now, it's a screenplay.
Yeah. So obviously, there's links on the you know, the website, you know, for this interview. Of how people can actually come in and support you, and there's all sorts of ways that people could support, and it is an incredibly important message. It is a message from the future, and a colleague, Mariana Kanagaiza, who's also doing these interviews, was saying to me, you know, what are people going to say in 200 years when they look back on today? and you know what's going on right at the moment. This is a decision point. It's an epochal time in history that we're actually in right at the moment. And how is it going to be viewed? And this is the view of Journey Home, is that, you know, we're looking from the future back to now. Very, very critical. Okay, well, look, I am deeply, deeply grateful, Joëlle, to speaking with you today. You know, for now, thank you. And
My pleasure.
for people watching, please follow up these links in terms of what's going on with Human Dimensions TV. So thank you again.
Thank you, Neil. Thanks.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.